Shavua Tov, everyone. Welcome to Tillis Tell Stories for Saturday night. The title of this week's video is Young Man, What Will Be If It's All True? I adapted it from the website Chabad.org. Yesterday, Friday, the 22nd of Tammuz, was also the yortzeit of my mother, Ella Bas Eliyahu Alevi, Aleva Shalom. So this video is dedicated for the elevation of her soul. When Rabbi Shlomo Zalman of Yozna began teaching the new path of Chabad Hasidism in the 1770s, he attracted many different kinds of individuals, some sincere and some not so sincere. The latter were attracted to the novel intellectual discipline introduced by the Rebbe, but not so interested in taking the difficult steps necessarily to internalize the lessons for the sake of self-improvement. One such young man from this latter category was a businessman by the name of Schlommo Fagin. Though he was brilliant and enjoyed the intellectual challenge of the Alter Rebbe's teachings, sadly, his heart was not in it. It happened one year when Schlommo needed to make a business trip to the annual fair in Leipzig. Prior to his departure, the Alter Rebbe summoned him. To Schlommo's surprise, the Rebbe wanted to hear his travel itinerary. And when the Rebbe heard that he was passing through the city of Karlin, or the town of Karlin, he asked him to please pay a visit to his colleague, the saintly Rabbi Shlomo of Karlin, and convey his regards. Schlommo promised to fulfill the Rebbe's request. Rabbi Shlomo of Karlin was also a student of the Maggid, as well as Rabbi Aaron the Great of Karlin, whom he succeeded in 1772. Most of the Hasidic leaders of the next generation in the White Russian region were his disciples. He died on the 22nd of Tammuz. Yesterday was his yortzeit, and also my mother's yortzeit. But he died in the year 1792 at the young age of 54. Al Kiddush Hashem. He died in sanctification of God's name in a way that you can't possibly imagine. He was stabbed in the back, stabbed to death in the back by a Cossack while in the midst of the Amida prayer. If anybody went straight up to heaven, that's him. Upon arrival at the home of Rabbi Shlomo of Karlin, Mr. Fagin was shown to the waiting room, directly adjacent to the Rebbe's study. As he waited, he heard the Karliner pacing in his study. After a minute or two, the door to the study swung wide open, and Rabbi Shlomo walked out and began to pace around the waiting room also. Suddenly he stopped and loudly exclaimed, young man, what will be if indeed there is a God in the world?" The Rebbe then returned to his room. Schlommo Fagin, mesmerized by this strange scene, continued to wait, immobilized. A few minutes went by. The Karliner's pacing inside his office could again be heard in the waiting room. Again, the door swung open in a rush, and out came Rabbi Shlomo. Again came the pacing and exclamation, and again came the exclamation, young man, what will be if there is indeed a God in the world?" After the scene repeated itself a third time, Fagin realized that this must be the reason for the Alter Rebbe's request that he visit the Karliner Rebbe. He was supposed to witness this scene. He left and resumed his journey to Leipzig. Sometime later, Schlommo Fagin's spiritual well-being took a major turn for the worse. He eventually succumbed to the promise of grandeur and power and forsook his faith. Highly gifted, he rapidly climbed the ladder of excess until he was appointed to a high position in the Tsar's government. More years went by. Rabbi Shlomo Zalman had already passed on to his eternal rest in 1812. The government decided to build a highway that would traverse the entire breadth of the land. To the chagrin of the Chabad community, the proposed road's route ran directly through the place where the Alter Rebbe's holy remains had been laid to rest. The Hasidim decided to try to use whatever influence they had to change the route. Inquiries were made, and it turned out that the one in charge of the route was the apostate Jew, Schlommo Fagin. The Hasidim were greatly concerned. Would a former colleague turned outsider, a man like Schlommo Fagin, be sympathetic to this cause? The venerable Chassid Rabbi Moshe Valenka, a famous old-time Chabad Chassid, who years earlier had spent time together with Schlommo in the Alter Rebbe's court, was asked to intervene. An appointment was secured. The aged Rabbi Moshe sat down with Schlommo and explained the situation. Without hesitation, Schlommo promised to reroute the road, but he had one request of Reb Moshe. Could they sit together that evening and schmooze like in times of old? Rabbi Moshe. During the course of their discussion, Schlommo confessed to something most personal. You see all of my success, all of my wealth, all of my power. He asked. I cannot enjoy it. I constantly hear the words of Rabbi Shlomo of Karlin reverberating in my head. Young man, what will be if indeed there is a God in the world? Indeed, Rabbi Shlomo's question, Rabbi Shlomo of Karlin's question or warning is still reverberating. Hopefully it is being heard wherever necessary. Shavua Tov, have an excellent week.